When it comes to the casting process, no one does it better than Marvel Studios. They literally couldn't have got a better actor to portray Iron Man, since Robert Downey Jr. is literally the real-life Iron Man, minus the suit and the genius IQ. They actually didn't even want him at first, but while there are some actors Marvel doesn't like, we're looking at you, Ed Norton, there are some actors they absolutely love. In fact, they love some actors so much, they've been cast to play multiple roles in Marvel movies. So without further ado, let's take a look at the actors Marvel loves to recycle. Of course, we have to start with Mahershala Ali, probably the most notable recycled actor in the MCU, since it was announced that he will be playing Blade in the Phase 5 reboot.
Now here I am.
Cottonmouth was one of the villains in the first season of Luke Cage, and he actually appeared in the show for a grand total of 7 episodes, which isn't that bad for a villain. Of course, Cottonmouth was played by Mahershala Ali, who did an amazing job as the character before Cottonmouth was killed by his enraged cousin, Mariah Dillard. Now that Mahershala Ali is going to be playing Blade in the reboot, we couldn't be more stoked. He was great as a villain, and we're sure he's going to be just as good as a vampire hunter. Seriously, we're going to be getting vampires in the MCU. All we need are some werewolves, and we got that completely covered. But Mahershala Ali isn't the only actor who's going to be taking on a new role in the MCU's future.
Do you read me?
English actress Gemma Chan played Minn-Erva, a minor character in Captain Marvel, but a character in the movie nonetheless. She was a character of the Kree Star Force and was a sniper for the team. She later died when Monica Rambeau shot down her ship. Since Minn-Erva only lasted one movie and Gemma Chan did a great job playing the character, Marvel Studios gave her a new role. It was announced at the D23 Expo that Chan will be playing Sersi in the Eternals, which hits theaters November 6, 2020. We don't really know that much about Sersi at this point. All we know is that she loves to hang out with humans despite having super strength, stamina, speed, and near immortality, but that's something we expect to see pretty much in every Eternal. That being said, we know Gemma Chan is going to kill it as she always does, and we can't wait to see what the Eternals will bring to the table. It could give us information about the Infinity Stones that we've been waiting for. Only time will tell, but we are really looking forward to it. Just in case you had no idea, Gunn is Guardians of the Galaxy director James Gunn's brother, and he's done much more than just play Kraglin, the first mate of the Yondu Ravager clan in the MCU.
Well, here it is.
In fact, Sean has actually had not one, not two, but 3 roles in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
Clearly, Marvel Studios really likes him, or maybe it's just his brother who really likes him.
Whatever you say.
It doesn't matter. Sure, most people know him for playing Kraglin, but you do know Sean also did some other motion capture work on the set of Guardians of the Galaxy? Yup, believe it or not, he was actually the motion capture actor for Rocket. If you thought Bradley Cooper also did the motion capture for Rocket, you'd be mistaken, because it was actually Sean Gunn. Bradley Cooper was just his voice.
I'm sorry. I am so sorry.
And that's not all. Sean Gunn was also the motion capture actor for Thanos in the first Guardians of the Galaxy, even though he was pretty much just sitting in a chair the whole time.
And I will bathe the starways in your blood.
Now we're going to take you all the way back to 2011's Captain America: The First Avenger, one of the first MCU movies ever made. Of course, in the movie, we saw Steve Rogers get injected with the Super Soldier Serum, turning him into the ripped superhero known as Captain America. Now, becoming superhuman might sound like it has no drawbacks, but it does in the form of fangirls. You see, Cap became a celebrity of sorts and had people coming up to him for autographs all the time. Laura Haddock played one of these fangirls in The First Avenger, and we had no idea at the time, but it turns out that this fangirl was actually Meredith Quill, the mother of Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord. Oh, and in the first Guardians of the Galaxy, Laura Haddock also played Meredith Quill, so it's the same character and the same actress in both films. Man, does the MCU know how to make every character relevant or what? That's such an easy moment to quickly glance over, but it turns out to be actually a meaningful scene. The Marvel Cinematic Universe never ceases to amaze us, and this is just one of the many reasons why. Benedict Cumberbatch is known for playing the self-centered and egotistical Doctor Strange in the MCU, but he also played another character in the film. We're sure you all remember the famous "I've come to bargain" scene, where Doctor Strange shows up in the Dark Dimension to, bargain with Dormammu. Using the Time Stone, the Sorcerer Supreme stuck the ruler of the Dark Dimension in a time loop, forcing Dormammu to banish himself and the Zealots from Earth forever. Yeah, we'd also cave in if we had to spend an eternity with Doctor Strange. It's not that we don't like him as a superhero, it's just he's kind of difficult to be around. Anyway, did you ever stop to think about who did the facial capture for Dormammu? If you did, then you know it was Benedict Cumberbatch himself. While he didn't voice the ruler of the Dark Dimension, Cumberbatch did the facial capture for the character, which is pretty awesome. He essentially played the main character and the main villain of the same movie, which is really impressive feat that reminds us of Mike Myers, who played both Austin Powers and Dr. Evil in the Austin Powers movie. That's some impressive company, baby. Alfre Woodard also had the pleasure of playing multiple characters in the MCU, but again, only if you consider the Netflix shows as part of the MCU, which we do. You may remember Woodard in a small role in Captain America: Civil War, where she played Miriam Sharp, a woman who lost her son in the Battle of Sokovia. We all remember that scene where she confronted Tony Stark and blamed him for the death of her son, which really changed his whole outlook on the Avengers, leading him to eventually sign the Sokovia Accords. While Sharp wasn't a major character, her words had a major impact on Tony Stark. Woodard also played Mariah Dillard, who we mentioned earlier in this video when we talked about Cottonmouth because, well, she killed him. Dillard was a politician in Harlem who wanted to bring change to the city, but was a target for both Luke Cage and Cottonmouth. She would end up being poisoned by her own daughter, but before she passed away, she gave Luke Cage sole possession of the Harlem's Paradise nightclub. There's a lot more to Dillard's story than just that, but we only have so much time. Woodard was incredible in both roles. Taika Waititi is the man who revived Thor's standalone movies because, let's be honest, the whole Shakespearean vibe just wasn't working. Now don't get us wrong, the first two Thor movies weren't bad by any means, but they weren't even close to the same level as Ragnarok, which is, in our opinion, one of the best MCU movies ever made. Taika Waititi did much more than just revive the movies though, he also played multiple characters in Thor Ragnarok. Most people know he played Korg, the Cronin warrior who tried to start a rebellion but didn't have enough pamphlets to get the support he wanted. Korg quickly became a fan favorite. But Waititi also kind of played two other characters in the movie. Do you remember Haddock, the three-headed gladiator who died in the Battle of the Rainbow Bridge? Well, Taika Waititi was the character's left head, and believe it or not, Chris Hemsworth's head was the character's right head. On top of that, Waititi also did some motion capture for Surtur and even the Hulk. At this point, there's no denying that Taika Waititi is a talented dude. He could direct, act, and even do motion capture. Is there anything he can't do? Probably not. This one is a bit of a technicality, but we're still gonna count it. We all know that Tony Stark loves his acronyms, and Jarvis is no exception. It stands for just another rather very intelligent system, and was an artificially intelligent system that ran business for Stark Industries and security for the mansion. That's a really clever name, isn't it? The man who voiced Jarvis is none other than Paul Bettany, who also plays Vision. The superhero is created from Ultron's perfect body and the Jarvis AI. Luckily, our heroes thwarted Ultron's kill-all-humans plan and made their own superhero in the process. Now, Vision would end up dying at the hands of his girlfriend to prevent Thanos from getting the Mind Stone from the android, but the Mad Titan decided to use the Time Stone to go back in time to take the Mind Stone from Vision himself. With WandaVision coming up on the Disney Plus streaming service, we wonder how Vision will come back to life. But seeing as the show is connected to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, we feel like it'll have to do with the multiverse in some way, shape, or form. We're back at it again with another character from the Netflix MCU shows. This time we're going to be talking about Ray Schoonover from Daredevil and the Punisher, played by Clancy Brown. Ray Schoonover appeared in 2 episodes of Daredevil and 1 episode of the Punisher. He was a member of the United States Marine Corps, specifically the Force Recon Division. While he seemed like a good military man, he was secretly a drug lord known as the Blacksmith, who used his profits from his drugs to fund the Cerberus Squad. If that isn't shady, we don't know what is. Luckily, the Punisher ended up executing him, so he got exactly what he deserved. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. While Clancy Brown is best known for the role of Ray Schoonover in the MCU, he also voiced a character in one of the movies. Remember when we said that Taika Waititi was the one who did the motion capture for Surtur in Thor Ragnarok? Well, Clancy Brown was actually the voice of the Fire Demon. Sure, the character doesn't speak very much, but Brown did a great job of voicing Surtur nonetheless. We'd love to see more of Brown in the MCU. If you were disappointed with the whole fake Mandarin thing in Iron Man 3, you weren't alone. It's one of the main reasons why the film isn't considered one of the MCU's finest. But if you watch the All Hail the King one-shot, then you learn that the real Mandarin is actually out there, finally ready to make his debut in Phase 4's Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. One of the characters we meet in All Hail the King is known as White Power Dave, for, well, obvious reasons, who's played by Matt Gerald. Dave was in the same prison as the fake Mandarin, Trevor Slattery, and you may remember him as the guy who threatened and insulted Slattery after he accidentally spilled his lunch all over him. Matt Gerald also played Melvin Potter, the intelligent but mentally impaired designer who was forced to work for Wilson Fisk in Daredevil, because who actually decides to work for Fisk under their own volition? He later creates Daredevil's suit to repay the hero for keeping Betsy Beatty safe. White Power Dave and Melvin Potter are 2 very different characters, which just goes to show how much range Matt Gerald has in his acting ability. Joe Russo is more than just the co-director of the highest-grossing movie of all time, Avengers Endgame. He's also got some acting chops. Joe's first role in the MCU came as Dr. Fine in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Dr. Fine was one of the surgeons who performed emergency surgery on Nick Fury after he was attacked and shot by the Winter Soldier. His next role came as Theo Broussard in Captain America: Civil War. Broussard was hired to interrogate the Winter Soldier, but was killed by Helmut Zemo before he even got the chance to do his job. Man, Zemo was crazy in Civil War, but he did blame the Avengers for the death of his family back in Sokovia, so we weren't surprised to see that he was blinded by revenge. Joe Russo's most recent role came in Endgame, where he played an openly gay character who is a part of Captain America's post-snap support group. He lost his male partner due to the decimation caused by Thanos. Now we're patiently waiting to see what Joe Russo's fourth different MCU role will be. Whatever it is, we know he's gonna kill it. He's honestly not that bad of an actor. Martin Starr has put himself in a really unique situation when you take a look at the two roles he took on in the MCU. He got his start in the MCU as Amadeus Cho, a man who was bribed by Bruce Banner with pizza to enter a lab. Now, his name was never actually mentioned in the film, but he was known as Amadeus Cho in the novelization of the movie. Yet Kevin Feige would go on to retcon that whole thing and say it actually wasn't Amadeus Cho, but rather Roger Harrington instead. Roger Harrington is probably better known as Mr. Harrington to most people because he's a school teacher at Midtown School of Science and Technology. Yep, the same school Peter Parker attends. In fact, Mr. Harrington was the teacher who was in charge of the group during their trip around Europe in Spider-Man: Far From Home. Can we quickly press F to pay our respects to Spider-Man in the MCU down in the comments? It really would be appreciated. So technically, Martin Starr has played two different characters, but he's actually only played one character, if you believe Kevin Feige's retcon story. Whatever the case may be, we decided to include him in this video anyway. Kenneth Choi's multiple roles are pretty unique, and you'll see why. It's one of the very few cases where Marvel made an actor play the descendant of the character they played the first time. Yep, you'd figure it'd be the other way around, like Chris Evans playing Old Cap, but not in this case. In Captain America: The First Avenger, Kenneth Choi played Jim Morita, a World War II soldier who was a member of the Howling Commandos. In fact, the same character was also seen in quite a few flashbacks in Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So while Jim Morita isn't an incredibly popular character, he's far from irrelevant. If you were paying close attention in Spider-Man: Homecoming, you may have noticed that Principal Morita looks a lot like Captain America's former friend, before he turned into a capsicle. Of course, it was no coincidence that these characters not only share a name, but look similar as well. It turns out that Principal Morita is Jim Morita's grandson, and their connection is confirmed through a photograph of Jim on Principal Morita's desk. It's a nice bit of continuity that Marvel Studios just loves to include in the MCU, and we can never get tired of it. Tony Curran is special because he could say that he has the pleasure of dying in both Asgard and Hell's Kitchen. Okay, so dying isn't fun, so there's not much pleasure in it, but when it comes to the MCU, not many actors could say they portrayed two different characters who each died. A round of applause for Mr. Tony Curran for this monumental achievement. First, the Scottish actor appeared in Thor: The Dark World, where he played Thor's grandfather and Odin's father, Bor. Good old Grandpappy Bor. 3 years later, his appearance in Thor: The Dark World, Tony Curran would play gangster Finn Cooley, who was one of the many baddies in Season 2 of Netflix Daredevil, but he didn't make it out of the episode he debuted in alive. Still, he played two different characters in the MCU who both died, which is pretty cool. He also starred in some other Marvel movies that weren't a part of the MCU. Curran played a vampire priest in Blade 2 and a Division X agent in X-Men First Class. But he was only on screen long enough in that movie to get killed by Sebastian Shaw. Man, Curran sure dies a lot in Marvel movies. Last but most definitely not least, we have the late great legend himself, Stan Lee. Stan the Man was the one who brought so many amazing comic book characters and stories to us over the many years he's been in the business, and the MCU wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for him. Comic books were his life, and he made a cameo in every single MCU movie, except for Spider-Man: Far From Home. Even before he started his famous streak of MCU cameos, Stan Lee had a bunch of acting credits to his name, 121 to be exact, ranging from voice work on Big Hero 6 the series, to even playing himself in Entourage and many other credits. If you think about it, he's the actor who's had a role in the most MCU films, being recycled 22 times. In fact, there's even a theory about him being Uatu the Watcher, or one of the other Watchers who sees everything that's going on in the universe, and that's actually been confirmed by Kevin Feige. Stan Lee played the Watcher informant throughout his time in the Infinity Saga and reported all of his findings to the rest of the Watchers. Your legacy will live on forever, Stan Lee. We're sure we caught you by surprise with that last entry, but how could we not bring up Stan the Man? Who's your favorite actor that Marvel loves to recycle for their roles? Let us know in the comments section, and don't forget to subscribe to CBR for more MCU videos. Thanks for watching.